Welcome back to my channel. My name is Tally. I'm a personal trainer and this is a kind of health and fitness based channel, but it's with a bit of a difference. I think I come at health and fitness from a bit of a different angle than the majority, and part of that is due to my own personal experience, and it's a story and something I want to talk about in a bit more depth today. I was recently a guest on the podcast Don't Salt My Game, which is a nutrition podcast hosted by the brilliant Laura Thomas. I was overwhelmed by how many of you listened and how many of you got in touch with me after hearing that episode, and if you haven't listened yet and you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm going to pop all the links below, and I'm going to pop a ton of resources and links below in the info box for this video. I am going to be giving some backstory here, but if you want the full nitty-gritty in-depth stuff, head to that podcast and have a listen. So Laura and I discussed my journey with food and fitness and my body. We spoke about things in great detail, and particularly when things got complicated with my relationship with food. And so I thought I would go into summary of that complication and also like the journey since that period in my life, which was now about kind of 5 or 6 years ago. Please be aware that some of the themes and subjects may be potentially triggering in this video. I want to be as open and honest as I can about my journey in the hope that it might help you. However, it's okay if you're not ready to watch this yet, and if you are struggling, I have put some links below that I think may help you. So I went to drama school and I did 5 years of drama school education. I was there from the ages of just turning 19 to 23. At 2 separate colleges. This is when I really became hyper aware of food, exercise and my body. I wanted to be the healthiest and fittest performer I could be to be good at my job. I was training in musical theatre, and if you've done any sort of performing arts, you know that you need a lot of strength, stamina, fitness to keep up with dance classes, to keep up with what's required of you in a show. And so I just wanted to be the healthiest I could be. But in my pursuit of health, I lost my way and I soon became obsessed. And what started out as me trying to make positive, healthy changes in my lifestyle soon turned into obsession around food and exercise. And it was a pretty quick, slippery slope. I'd started showing more interest in exercise, but things really took a turning point when I started having bad digestion issues and I started showing a lot of IBS symptoms. And so I was doing my own online research, and I found some blogs, and I found this particular blogger who was talking about their issues with IBS and how by cutting out refined foods, eating clean and cutting out refined sugars and all that kind of stuff, going gluten-free, they managed to manage their symptoms. And so I thought, great, that's what I'm gonna do. And a few months later I got on Instagram, and I think a lot of you guys have known me on Instagram. I've been sharing my health and fitness journey on Instagram now for about 6 years, and that was when I really started to become a lot more obsessed and invested in my health and fitness life. I got Instagram, I wanted to follow Fitspo people because I thought, right, I'm really getting into my nutrition now, I'm really paying close attention to what I'm eating. I was reading a lot of articles, doing a lot of research, and I thought on social media there was just like so much information out there, and now I realise a lot of it is unsolicited and bad advice, because it's unqualified advice, but I just related to other girls who were going through a similar life period to me, and I related to them. And at that time, I'm thinking like 2013, 2014, everyone was talking about macros, MyFitnessPal, bodybuilding, and all that kind of stuff. So from what started as clean eating, then turned into tracking my macros religiously, then turned into me training 6 times a week in a bodybuilding split on top of drama school, where you're doing lots of singing, dancing, acting. So it was intense. I soon became very obsessive over what I was eating in particular. I would sit and do calculations throughout the day, working out what I was going to have for dinner, doing mental maths all the time, figuring out my calories so my macros would fit. But I still also ate really clean. So I combined kind of macros and clean eating, and I was gluten-free. So things became really restrictive, and I soon found myself pretty much eating food that only I had prepared, only I knew the ingredients of, and only I deemed to be healthy and acceptable. I ate a reasonable amount. I never massively deprived myself, but I was very, very controlling over what I ate. And if I was presented with food that wasn't clean, that wasn't gluten-free, that wasn't made by me, like for example, a takeaway or going out to a pub lunch or something, I would have a mini freak out in my head. And I would feel really anxious and guilty around that for a while, and I would give it a lot of headspace. I would think about it a lot. So this is 2013, and in October 2013 I'd been religiously tracking macros, and I had lost a lot of weight. I'd been in a calorie deficit for a while, and I had lost a lot of weight to the point where like none of my clothes fit me. And people were commenting, and I went back to drama school after having a summer of being obsessed with my health and fitness routine, obsessed with going to the gym, of religiously doing everything perfectly, and to some extent I thought I looked great because I had visible abs, I had visible muscles, and I looked like the Fitspo pictures I saw on Instagram, which I was like, whoa, I can't believe my body looks like a Fitspo. I was really proud of that, but it took a lot of dedication, of isolation. It just took a lot of me withdrawing from my kind of social life to maintain that figure. And I was gradually losing weight, and I started to not like that. I was starting to think, hang on a minute, this has gone a bit too far. I don't want to lose weight anymore, I want to gain weight, but I wasn't sure what to do. I didn't know what to do. I was just a drama school student. I didn't know. So I started to like increase my calories, and I'd like gradually increase, but I still struggled with maintaining my weight and putting on weight. It got to a point where I kind of found that macros and calories were becoming all-consuming, and it was like I couldn't do it anymore. Like I said, people started commenting. I live with a load of girls, and they were like, look Tally, we're a bit worried about you because this is taking up a lot of your time. We don't see much of you. You're either at the gym, you're at college, you're cooking, like that's pretty much all you do. When you cook your meals, you're weighing out every little thing. And is it like, do you need to do that? And do you know what? I'm really grateful to a couple of accounts I followed on Instagram. And they just started talking about not tracking and about having like a few days off here and there tracking. And it got me thinking that I would stop tracking. I would just stop and see if I could do like a few days of not tracking. So I deleted my MyFitnessPal in the October. I just remember sitting there and in my bedroom, deleting the app, going cold turkey, and okay, the next 2 days, I just remember the next 2 days being like, okay, this feels kind of weird because I've gotten so used to the habit of weighing everything. But I very, very quickly realised I had so much more time on my hands. I didn't have to get up early to like weigh out my breakfast. I didn't have to do all this stuff. So it was a relief. It was a big relief to let go of that. However, I should add that I still did a lot of mental maths. I knew the calories, I knew the portions, I knew everything. So I might have not been tracking it in an app, but ultimately I still was aware of everything I was eating, and I still, for the next 6 to 8 months, ate within my comfort zone, and that was still my prepped meals, foods I believed were acceptable, the things that were on my like good list. I would eat those and really stick to those. It wasn't until summer 2014 when I started dating again. So I'd been in a relationship throughout most of that time, and the partner I was with at the time, he wasn't in the country, and so I was kind of left to my own devices. I was like, well, I'm not gonna like go out with my friends and try and like meet a guy, so I'm just gonna go to the gym and do all that kind of stuff. So I just replaced that relationship with the gym and exercise, and then I also realized that when he did come back, that we weren't meant to be. And I was like this new health and fitness woman, and I'd created a new identity for myself because I was now Tally, the Instagrammer. I had an Instagram called Clean Fit Lifestyle. I don't know if any of you are around from the Clean Fit Lifestyle days, but that was my Instagram. That was me. I was literally Clean Fit Lifestyle. I was adamant it wasn't a diet. It was a lifestyle change. I was now this clean, fit person who ate really healthy, and I worked out, and I started to get a lot of validation from that. In drama school, like just other people would ask me for advice. I would always feel honoured. I started to get Instagram followers, so I think in that first year I got around about 10,000 followers, and just generally I just started to get a lot of validation for what I was doing. On Instagram I would post I post all my meals. I would post everything I was eating, and that was part of my control as well around food, was having to take a picture of what I was eating and share it on Instagram, and also having to make the food look Instagrammable. But I met my boyfriend, my current boyfriend Jack, in summer 2014, and just dating again started to bring me out my comfort zone. And we all know, I hope we all know, that no one ever got anywhere, no one ever made any progress by sitting in their comfort zone. So I had sat in my comfort zone for about a year and a half, a year and a bit at that point. And I might have not been doing macros, but I was very much still in my zone. And so dating again forced me to put myself in situations where I was drinking alcohol a bit more. I was having ice cream for dinner instead of a real meal. I really remember that, being like, oh my goodness, I didn't have dinner tonight. I just had ice cream. And yes, I thought, right, I'm gonna go and do a big leg workout in the morning because I need to counterbalance it. But even just little things like that were progress. And I really want this video, and I really want the rest of this conversation to be about how I went from that restriction to where I am today. I am so free of those thoughts, and I am in such a good headspace around food and exercise that it is very much part of my life, but it is not my life. And what I'm talking about now is when food and exercise was my life. I want to talk about bridging the gap between me being obsessed and me now, where I have a lot more knowledge and power, and I've discovered intuitive eating, and I exercise because it feels good and not because I feel compelled to, and not because I think I have to manage my weight and things like that. So we're going to talk about bridging the gap. So I would say meeting Jack made, say before I was controlling 90 to 95% of what I ate, giving myself space for like 5% of some sort of like cheats or whatever you want to call it. When I met Jack, I started to like decrease that control, so it maybe went to like 80%. At that point, I also went home, and I moved back home because I graduated drama school. I moved home and I was becoming a personal trainer. So I did, I lived at home for like 3 months, I think, in total. And that was a big change for me, because I'd gone from living as a student, working out, having my gym, having everything I needed on my terms that I was in control of all the time at home. And then I went back to my mum's house and I didn't quite have the same control. And I still would cook a lot. I would still be in charge of a lot of the meals. I would still do all that kind of stuff, but I couldn't control as much as I could when I was living on my own. And I couldn't work out as intensely as I was, because I wasn't at drama school either, so I just wasn't being quite as highly active as I was. And so gradually my body started to change, and I started to gain some weight, some necessary weight. Quite frankly, I needed to gain weight, and I was gaining weight, but that's still difficult to deal with. Like, there's no beating around the bush. Having your body change is confusing. When you looked in the mirror and you saw a certain thing for a while, seeing that slightly change is scary and it's intimidating. And there were certainly days when I would analyze my body, I really didn't want to lose my abs, my visible abs. That was a big thing for me. Losing my visible six-pack was scary. And I kept it kind of for a while, but I gradually gained weight and I just got a bit more body fat on my body. So as I qualified as a personal trainer, I was actually working out a lot less as I was before. And as part of the personal training course, you had to learn how to do measurements on your clients, and one of them was a body fat test. And I remember people measuring my body fat and like having to be there, and I felt like I was really fluffy. That was a term I used to use a lot. I was fluffy. I felt like I wasn't lean and ripped like I had been, and that really, those little moments would really like trigger me to think like, oh my goodness, I need to do something. I need to change my body. I need to get back in. I need to get back to the gym. I need to get back to my food habits. and I kind of wrestle with myself all the time because I didn't want to quite go back there, but I was scared of my changing body. And as I entered the real world, once I qualified as a personal trainer, I quickly started working as a personal trainer in industry. I lived away from home again, and it was like commuting, navigating a new job, a new world. I just couldn't control everything like I once had. And I was also learning more about nutrition and learning more stuff, and I just became more and more confused and conflicted about what was the right thing to do. Do you know what? When I first started out and I was ignorant, it was a lot easier to control everything. But now I'm very conflicted and confused. Diet culture will do that to you. So fast forward to about 2015, and I was still documenting my health and fitness journey online on Instagram. And through Instagram, I'd met Xana and Vicky, who came to be my closest friends, and we created Girl Gains. And if you guys don't know who Girl Gains is, I'm going to link us below. We have a podcast called Fit and Fearless. Love you to listen. Girl Gains was about to launch. We were launching a website, and we were going to do a photo shoot. And for the first time in probably like a year and a half, maybe a bit longer, it's like summer 2015, I think. And I decided I would go back on a prep and a diet for that photo shoot. So I spent, I think, about 12 weeks dieting, prepping all my food again, counting calories again, macros, tracking, working out to a structured plan, like a rigid plan. And my body really didn't change that much. And I was so disheartened. I was so upset. I felt like such a failure. And I compared to Xana and Vicky, I felt that was probably my lowest point in terms of my self-esteem and my body image, because I was comparing myself to these two girls. Vicky had been prepping for a bikini competition, so you can imagine she was in this extremely conditioned state. And Xana is a very naturally lean and tall human, and I'm 5'2", and so I felt fat compared to them. I'll be honest, I felt like the odd one out, and I didn't feel pretty enough, I didn't feel good enough, and that stayed with me for a long time. That has been a big insecurity of mine, comparing myself to those two girls and comparing my body to them, and thinking that it made me less than because my body wasn't as good as theirs, or it wasn't as, I don't know, as fitspo. I found that really hard. However, being around people, just entering the real world and being around people more, and being with people who ate normally, sometimes normally, that really helped me. Just putting myself in situations where I would challenge my food rules, challenge my thoughts, challenge the little voice in my head that was like, oh, you shouldn't do that. Don't get me wrong, I would still eat something and then I would compensate for it the next day, and I would still have that mentality of like, oh, I need to make sure that if I'm eating that, I'm not having that, and da 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 da. But I gradually became more flexible with what I was eating. So don't get me wrong, I was still not there in my mind, but I was being more flexible with what I chose to eat and feeling less guilty about it. I was in a really happy relationship with Jack, and he gave me a lot of space to have fun with food and enjoy it again and be social with food again. And that really helped me, It made me kind of just want to have fun, and it stepped me out my comfort zone again. And like, common theme of this is like me just taking one little challenge at a time, one little experience, one invitation at a time, and just dealing with it, and realizing that the world didn't end when I had a brownie for dessert. The world didn't end when I chose to have a burger instead of a salad. Like, I would actually never choose a burger, I don't like burgers. But the world didn't end when I had fun and when I just let go. And that was a big lesson for me. Obviously, being a personal trainer in the industry as well, that also came with a lot of pressure to think about what I was eating. There was a lot of talk around macros and cutting and bulking and leaning out, and different trainers, like, we would just have conversations about it, but also just the pressure to like fit in the industry. And I often didn't feel lean enough or like I was fitspo enough, which is ridiculous. In hindsight, I realise I am more than good enough at my job. My body doesn't need to have a six-pack for me to know what I'm doing. So I suppose for like 18 months or so, I've really been kind of rejecting a lot of what I now understand to be the diet culture around the health and fitness industry, and with that became a lot of healing with my own body, with my relationship with food, and about a year ago I started to learn in depth about intuitive eating. I started to learn about intuitive eating. I started to learn about the non-diet approach. I started to hear all these things, and I'm really grateful to Laura Thomas, who I spoke about at the beginning of the podcast, and another dietitian, Helen West of the Rooted Project. And Laura gave me some sit-down time to really discuss with me what intuitive eating was, because I thought I'd been eating intuitively for a while. Like, I hadn't counted calories for a long time. I had been listening to my body a bit more. For me, intuitive eating prior to meeting Laura was still about food rules, was still about you know, not eating carbs for dinner if I'd eaten too many carbs in the day, or making sure I had protein with every meal. I still had foods that were scary. I still had things that I had little rules around that, like, I probably had like 1,000 food rules, and I'd broken them down and down and down, but there were probably still like a good 100 rules left, if we're putting it, I mean, I'm guessing, but there was still stuff that I was holding on to. And so Laura kind of helped me understand what intuitive eating is, and Helen West gave me a reading list. I'm going to pop the reading list and all that kind of stuff below, but the number one thing you need to check out is this book here. It is Intuitive Eating by Evelyn, Tribole and Elyse Resch. They are the dietitians who created intuitive eating. I'm going to give you a quick overview of what intuitive eating is, because I think we all just think it's like, yeah, you just listen to your body, you don't count calories. That's what I thought it was, but it isn't that at all. Well, it is, but it's not. So intuitive eating is made up of 10 principles, and it gives you a framework to learn to build trust within your body, to become more aware of your body and how you relate to food and movement. I think for so long I've been so obsessed with what I ate, I wasn't thinking about how I felt about what I ate. And intuitive eating has made me realise that we don't need to stress about what we eat to the extent that we do. We need to really think about how we feel about what we're eating, and the stress that's putting on our bodies, the anxieties that's giving us, I think can be more detrimental than the food itself. So the 10 principles are: rejecting the diet mentality, honouring your hunger, making peace with food. I've written them all down, by the way. Challenging the food police, feeling your fullness, discovering the satisfaction factor, coping with your emotions without respecting your body, exercise to feel the difference, I like to call it joyful movement, and honouring your health with gentle nutrition. Rejecting the diet mentality, I think, is like the best place to start. Becoming aware of diet culture has been game-changing for me. Game-changing for me. The reason we all feel this way, the reason I know that you're watching this and you feel anxious about food and you're scared to gain weight and you worry about your body and you are preoccupied with how much exercise you're doing, about whether you're eating the right thing. We all feel that way because we have been pressured by diet culture, by messages and media, by what we see online, by conversations we have within society. It is our life's mission to keep our bodies small, to shrink ourselves, because if we don't shrink ourselves, if we get bigger, if our bodies get bigger, if we gain weight, we have failed. For me, understanding why I've been in the headspace I've been in has been so key, so key. So the key areas I have had to work on with intuitive eating have been waking up to diet culture and just being aware of it, like I just spoke about. I've really had to learn my hunger and fullness cues, because when I was following macros and tracking calories, I was often eating past my fullness to hit calories, because I wasn't eating like calorie dense foods because I was eating clean foods. Often they weren't calorie dense. I was eating like the healthy version, for example, like a rice cake over a biscuit, for example. I would have to eat a lot of rice cakes to like hit my calories. And so I really got confused with when I was hungry and when I was full, and I started to believe I had to eat at certain times. There was a lot of rigidity around me eating like breakfast, snack, lunch, snack, dinner, snack, regardless of whether I was hungry or not. So for me personally, learning my hunger and fullness and really tuning into when my body needs to eat has been huge for that. Another huge one was making peace with food and realizing that food is food. It's not good, it's not bad, and I am not a bad person for eating a donut, and I'm not a good person for eating spinach. I can have both those things and feel good about myself. Satisfaction was a big one because I now enjoy a variety of food. I enjoy all foods, and I know what foods make me feel good. Like I genuinely I really like quinoa. Like I like quinoa. Like I had a quinoa salad at lunch. I love quinoa, but I also love a brownie. So I'm gonna have a brownie and I'm gonna have a quinoa, both of which satisfy me for different reasons. Another huge thing for me as a personal trainer and as someone who feels obliged to work out, I've had to really work out how I feel about exercise. And that has come with questioning my own intentions and motivations behind exercise. In the past, it had always been a tool for me to manipulate my body, to lose weight and to shrink myself. And now I have to think about, like, why am I doing this? Am I going to the gym regularly because I'm trying to control my body and control my aesthetic? Or am I going there because it feels really good? I feel fit and strong and empowered when I'm there. And there are certain things that I used to do because I thought I should do it. So now I'm trying to work on doing the things that make me feel good. So I feel less pressure to train in a certain way now, and now I just train in a way that I enjoy. And I still train regularly. I train maybe a little bit less. And if I want to rest, I don't feel guilty about it. And if I want to do more, I don't feel guilty about it. I just go with the flow. And a huge thing for me was addressing my own fat phobia. And realizing that I had internalized a lot of things about fat people, about fatness, about body fat, and I feared it, I was scared of it. I've been taught, diet culture taught me that fat is really bad, that fat is unhealthy, and that fat is failure. It means you're unattractive, it means you're unsuccessful, it means you're all those things. And I've had to really, really learn and listen to work from fat people. I'm going to list resources below because I think this is something we can all work on. Because a lot of your questions were based around fear of gaining weight, and I think we all fear gaining weight because we are scared of fatness, because being fat is one of the hardest things you can be in our society, which is so sad. And so waking up to that and questioning myself and questioning my intentions, like, why am I scared of having extra body fat on me? What is so bad about having a little bit of extra body fat? Why am I freaking out about that? So with recognizing my own fat phobic thoughts, it has also helped me accept my body. And I suppose part of that has come with exploring the body positivity movement, in realizing that I am more than my body. I have so much more to give than my body. Instagram accounts like Beauty Redefined have made me realize that it doesn't matter what my body looks like. It's the vessel that carries my being. So that's been really huge, and that's something I'm still working on. It's always a work in progress. This whole thing is still a work in progress. Right guys, I know this video is already really long, and I'm gonna split it in two here. So this is part one, and there will be a part two where I'm gonna sit and answer your questions about my experience with intuitive eating. I really hope you have kind of enjoyed this part one. I hope it's been informative. I hope it has somewhat answered some of your questions. Please like this video if you enjoyed it. Please let me know in the comments below what your thoughts are so far, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.